Welcome to the Venly Expert Talks, where we aim to inspire Web3 builders with great stories from great minds. I'm your host, Alexandra Ahrens, and I'd like to remind you that you can always reach out to us on Twitter, Discord, or LinkedIn with ideas for the podcast and questions for our guests. Welcome to episode 45 of the Venly Expert Talks. Today I have Nick Zwaneveld, founder of CEO and CTO of Coorest, also a crypto and DeFi consultant. And we are going to be talking about the ins and outs of launching an NFT project. So thanks so much for joining me today, Nick.
Hi, nice to be here.
Let's start off with kind of how you got into this. So if you could take us through your background in life and crypto and kind of how you got going.
Yeah, my background is a bit weird, I guess, because I used to be in the army for 17 years, actually a retired army captain. I used to be going on missions all the time, deployed in the Middle East and Africa during my military career before I decided to stop. Then during my military career, I studied at the Erasmus University. I did a master in strategic management. When I went out, I transitioned to a tech company that was building virtual reality systems for army, police, fire departments. And I was always interested in technology. And during the years that I was transitioning out of the army, I really got interested in crypto. I invested in crypto, and I decided to learn more about the tech. So I joined the Morales Tech Academy. And I just did a deep dive in all the technology. I tried to program Solidity. I'm absolutely no developer, but it really helped me to understand what's going on in space, and that got me so interested that I started to dive into the space and see what I can do in crypto. And then the opportunity came to start working together with the other crypto company that I'm still in contact with today, at Coorest. They tokenize precious metals, gold, silver, and platinum. And then a new opportunity came to start Coorest, because basically the whole ESG agenda and carbon neutrality became really a topic. And then I discovered that blockchain technology is basically a good solution to bring a product that can enhance the transparency regarding carbon compensation. And then basically the idea was born. I wrote the first white paper in beginning of 2021, where I outlined the concept of NFTs that generate CO2 tokens, and those CO2 tokens can be converted into proof of carbon compensation certificates. And that was basically the concept for Coorest. And then the NFT journey began also with Venly. So that's basically the long story short about me and Coorest.
Great. Yeah, that's quite an interesting journey from military to blockchain.
Yes.
Cool. Can you tell us maybe a little bit more about the technology behind kind of the NFTs? So because I know it's traceable and verifiable CO2 compensation, and I think that's pretty unique. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the NFTs are just NFTs tied to real world trees. And the initial idea was to plant trees and then sell it individually to people or companies that want to compensate. So, and then we had to come up with the mechanism to connect the real world asset to an NFT. So how we started is just to start selling NFTs. It was basically a fundraiser NFTs, and from that money we buy our own land and plant trees. And the first project that we did was fig trees. So, and you can basically compare it with an orchard, and we fractionalize that orchard, and each NFT holder is connected to one tree on that land. And so we planted 5,000 trees from that, and we basically started with Venly because we didn't have any tech at that time. So we started using a Venly smart contract, ERC1155. To start minting the NFTs, and then connect it to the real world trees. And the moment the trees are planted, they start to generate the CO2 tokens, because we developed also the Coorest carbon standard. So that's a new standard for carbon compensation, basically, where we make a calculation based on how much CO2 the actual tree is absorbing. So, and we calculate the CO2 absorption rate based on how much carbon is stored in above ground biomass on the tree, and below ground biomass on the tree, and the soil organic carbon. So how much carbon is stored in the ground? Because if you plant a tree, the tree absorbs CO2, but basically the carbon is stored not only in the wood, it's also stored in the roots, and it's stored in the soil as well. So then we make a calculation, and we make a projection for, how much CO2 is that tree storing over 20 years, and we bring it back to a yearly average. And then we translate 1 kilogram of absorbed CO2 into 1 token. So the CO2 token basically represents CO2 absorbed by the tree. And the moment the tree is planted, it starts to generate CO2. And then the NFT holder can claim those tokens at the same rate as the tree is absorbing the CO2. So, the NFT holder just goes to our application, to our dApp, and then logs in with the wallet, MetaMask wallet or Venly wallet, and then claims the CO2 tokens. And then the CO2 tokens are tradable. Or you can use the CO2 tokens to generate a proof of carbon compensation certificate. So, and what happens then is the CO2 tokens are burned, taken out of circulation, and in return you get a new NFT. And that NFT holds data about your compensation. So in the dApp you can create your own profile with your name or your company name, picture. Then that name is used to put that on the certificate. Then the amount that you compensate in CO2 is put on the certificate. The reason for compensation is there, and the date, of course, and the token ID of that NFT. So, and all that data is stored on chain, so it's immutable, so everyone can see that you compensated. And we generate a certificate in a form of a PDF. You can have it, you can download that, or you can send it to your email. Now we're also connecting a QR code. So the QR code, then you can use it to put it on a product or on a poster, and then when you scan it, you go to the actual certificate.
Nice.
So that's basically the token system, the tech that we have now, but we went a step further because our project is it's not digital only. So because we are dealing with real world trees,
definitely.
we know that, we had to add an extra layer of security, basically, or transparency. So we partnered with Floodlight, and they specialize in aggregating all kinds of satellite data. So we use the satellite data to validate the CO2 token minting. So what we do is we map areas that we plant, and we send it to our partner, and they monitor the biomass. So basically checking if the trees are there and if they're growing as we think they should grow. And that data is then put on chain. So Floodlight runs a chain link node, and our smart contracts responsible for minting the CO2 token query the data on a monthly basis, and that satellite data directly goes into the CO2 token minting functionality. So without the data, we cannot mint. So so you have a monthly check. Okay, the trees are there, therefore you can mint X amount of CO2 tokens. So you have a real world check through satellites for the trees. So that is basically what we have built.
Very cool. And then just one kind of last thing about your project here before we move into more of a general look at things. I know that you recently had a press release go out announcing a really new big project that you're working on with actually a lot of big partners. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So yesterday we announced that we are developing proof of concept for a new product. We're doing that together with Etheresk, Floodlight, us, Chainlink, and we run everything on the Polygon network. So what we're doing is make a product for all the farmers or green projects that we onboard, because Coorest not only plants their in-house project trees, but we also onboard farmers or green projects globally, because we have the Coorest Carbon Standard, and we have tech that allows us to basically get farmers to generate their own CO2 tokens, which they can sell to companies or people looking to compensate. But because we are dealing with the real world assets, trees, they are exposed to certain risks. Like flooding, fire, and storms. And those farmers that we onboard now are mainly from developing countries. And we want to give them access to an insurance. So they can get so they can insure the trees, but also the carbon tokens that are generated by those trees. So, and by creating an insurance product, we basically help the farmers to protect their livelihoods, but also we protect the CO2 token supply, because you can imagine that if something happens to the trees due to a fire, natural disaster, whatever, then the CO2 token generation is stopped due to the biomass check. That detects a negative change, then the CO2 tokens are stopped. But we want to also make sure that all the projects that we onboard lock the CO2 for a minimum period of 20 years. And therefore we would like to, if something happens, that the insurance kicks in, that there's a payout to the farmer to start replacing those trees as soon as possible. But also there will be a risk pool that covers the CO2 that is potentially lost. So we basically have a higher level of security that the CO2 that is actually produced by all projects is covered. Because we know that there's also a lot of articles now criticizing carbon credits. Yesterday was a huge announcement that a lot of carbon credits are basically unbacked. And that should not be. But you, at the same time, you want to create a high standard for those tokens. But you cannot always prevent that that something happens to a tree, because it's a real world project.
Of course,
something can happen. And therefore we came up with that insurance product.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like that you've really taken the time to think through kind of every direction and really protect, I mean, not really just even your project, your company, but everything that comes out of it. That's really, really cool. Maybe that can kind of segue us into the next part, which is talking about the process you went through and how other people can kind of maybe base their own projects off of this, or I don't know, copy you, I guess, in a way of how do you create and launch an NFT collection, especially with so many different moving parts and so many aspects to think about.
Yeah, it is kind of difficult to do this. Well, minting an NFT is not that hard. Anyone can do that now. You can go to many NFT platforms and you can mint any NFT. You can create a picture. You can create the description. That's not that hard. But I think the hardest part for projects like us, because we have a real world product that we're selling via an NFT, because the NFT is just a representation of the actual product, is to come up with a mechanism to show your customers that the NFT is connected to that actual product in real world. And I think that's the hard part. But you can see now that a partner like Chainlink is really important, right? Because they also developed the proof of reserve that you can actually get off-chain data on-chain, helping you to show, hey, what I'm doing on-chain is real, right? So that was really important for us. But also marketing, right? So marketing is really important because you can have the best product, but if it looks ugly or nobody knows that you exist, that's also an issue. So it's a combination of have the tech in place. I would say get that in place first because that's the basis. Then have your marketing in order. So website, your social media channels, also the right partners that can help you market your NFT collection, and also the business model, because a lot of people forget to have, because in the end you're a company and you need to generate revenue and you need to be profitable, right? So, and selling JPEGs, it's quite easy and the business model is not that complicated. But if you're operating a real business, you have to make sure your business model is in order as well, because we have certain operational expenses that we need to cover via the NFTs. So you need to make sure that you're listing at the right price. So you need to analyze your costing model and translate that in an NFT, because for us, for example, from that price, we have to make sure that we can buy the land, can buy the trees, do the planting operations, do the management, and cover unforeseen expenses as well. So those elements need to be in place to launch a NFT collection, especially an NFT collection that is connected to real world products.
Sure. Can you also maybe go into what your team structure looks like?
Yeah.
And kind of who you started out with maybe and how you've grown?
Yeah. So recently we went through a big change. We started with 5 founders at the beginning. And then we grew, I think, a little bit too aggressively because, when we launched, it was still bull market, so And then we had the tech team, of course. We had marketing. We had sales, and we also had at the launch the idea to build our own game. Because bull market, you just started, you're over ambitious, and then reality sets in. Because the bear market came. And then we were faced with the reality, like, okay, NFTs are not that popular at the moment. And yeah, to last the bear market, you don't know how long it works. You have to go back to basics. So we said, okay, why do we exist as a company? And what is our added value? So then we basically decided to do a reorganization. And we scaled down and just focus on the core of our business model, and that is helping companies and people to compensate their CO2 emissions. And all the other stuff around it was nice, but okay, first of all, it was too expensive to maintain that if we don't know how long the bear market lasts. And we said, okay, we have to get revenue going. Number one priority now. And that is based on the NFTs and CO2 tokens. So we reshuffled the organization. Basically, what happens, we scale down. Of course, the tech is the tech. That we cannot go without the tech. And we focused on the marketing just on the CO2, not the gaming part anymore. And sales is just focused now more on B2B for non-crypto companies. Of course, we are selling and working together with crypto companies, but the vast majority of companies, especially in Europe, that need to compensate are non-crypto companies. And we, in the end of the day, we are here to help them. So we shifted our focus to that. So yeah, the board went through a massive reshuffle. I started as CTO, but I stepped up as also a CEO. Yeah, we got new people in. The majority of the board left, and yeah, we are now shifting a focus to get people in that can help us connect to regular companies. And because we have one disadvantage at this moment is that crypto and blockchain is kind of new. So we have to educate regular companies that blockchain is the way to go, right? They understand, okay, we need to start compensating, but they have a bit of a learning curve ahead of them to show, to see that, okay, if you're going to compensate, use blockchain technology. And that therefore we need, to educate them. And that, because that makes the sales cycle a bit longer. Because if you're just selling trees, maybe, okay, the companies think, okay, that's easy. But if you're selling NFTs, you know, that then they already start to think about crypto and all those complicated aspects. So yeah, it takes a bit more time. But once they get it, they cannot go back.
Okay, that's good. Good to hear. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I would say, from what I know, the whole industry, all of Web3 and blockchain is having that problem with, education, right? Or maybe not that problem, but that kind of hurdle to get over, I guess.
Yeah, I think we are in this phase now where, hopefully we are getting closer to mass adoption, where people and companies get used to the tech, and where people are not scared anymore to have a wallet and to go to a dApp and to log in. You know, I'm convinced that we are getting close to that becoming normal. So that would be really great for the space.
Yeah, definitely. Well, while we're on the subject of timeline, can you kind of tell me from ideation all the way up until maybe launch what that timeline looks for you guys, and if you think that was pretty average or?
So yeah, the white paper was written by me around, I think, April 2021. Then we participated in a hackathon. There was a Morales hackathon. And we launched the first NFT collection in October 2021. It was more like a phased rollout because we started with that NFT collection that gave us funding to buy land, plant the trees, build the tech. Mm-hmm. Then in February, we did the private sale of the Coorest token that gave us more funding. And then the tech was already being built, and the DApp went live in I think November with the integration of the satellite data, because we already had the DApp live earlier, but we really wanted to wait to get that satellite data in place. And we received a Chainlink grant for that, and also Polygon helped us out with some grants to build that. And that went live in November, the full tech and the whole application. I think it's quite fast. Because in the end, we planted trees, we bought land, we built the tech, we integrated satellite data, and the official launch date was October. So I think that it's quite fast.
Cool. Congrats.
I'm very excited. Especially because I never expected to go into crypto when I was in the army, and never expected to have a real world project connected to the blockchain with satellite data and NFTs and CO2 tokens. I never thought that in my life a few years ago. So now I'm actually in Spain now to prepare the second and even third batch of planting. And at the same time, we are now onboarding farmers globally. So we have a farmer from Angola, we have a farmer in Argentina. We're working on with another farmer in another country in Africa. It's quite exciting. And then an insurance products comes on top. It's like that's also, I think, unique about the space is that that crypto gives you the opportunity to dive into many industries that were closed to regular people like me before, because I got in contact with a company that is dealing with precious metals, and now I'm into CO2, and I'm getting in contact with satellite data and in insurance products. It's like, that can only happen in crypto, you know?
Yeah. So with that, which came first? Was it kind of the idea that you wanted to work on CO2 compensation, or was it, I want to launch an NFT project and how can I do that? Which direction did it go?
The CO2 was the main idea. And then because for me, tokens are just a tool. It's just, I didn't have in my head, I want to have an NFT collection. No, I realized that NFTs are a way to create a CO2 compensation system, to go from NFT to ERC20 to NFT. And I think that is the whole purpose of this tech, is not to have just tokens linked to pictures, but to actually connect real world use cases to the blockchain. And this is how I see NFTs. And I start to see other projects do that as well, that NFTs are used for real world purposes. And I think that's the whole thing that we should focus on. Real world use case connected to tokens with the right mechanisms, and make it available on a global scale.
Yeah, I mean, utility is definitely something I've been talking about more and more on the podcast for a while now, and in general in the space it's being talked about. Are there certain kinds of real world utility that you find most important or most useful at this point?
I see many use cases that I find interesting. The most important thing that I would like to see is to create use cases that are globally accessible for people. In our case, that is farmers that can get onboarded and generate CO2 tokens, but especially financial products or supply chain management. Because especially nowadays, traceability of your food, to know where your food is coming from, I find very interesting. or invest in luxury items that were not accessible to people before by fractionalizing them. I also see for medical records, for example, so medical use cases. I see some initiatives to bring that to the blockchain. But also a lot of data. I see a lot of off-chain data finding its way onto the blockchain, because the blockchain space without real-world data, is quite limited what you can do then. So I see projects that bring more and more data on chain, so that opens other use cases. Insurance products are going to be, I think, in my opinion, very helpful and massive real world use cases. So it's a lot of areas that are moving now.
Yeah, definitely. Then I guess the next big part is sustainability. Obviously, you guys have a pretty good corner of that market going with CO2 compensation. But obviously, it's something that we talk about a lot, I guess, with blockchain, is kind of the environmental impact. And obviously, changes are constantly happening to improve that situation. How much do you think people keep that in mind on like a daily basis when interacting with Web3? Is it enough? Is it something that we need to consider more?
I see more and more people and projects that keep that in mind. We're talking to projects on a daily basis that want to explore how they can utilize our NFTs, for example, to help make their project green. So I see a growing attention for sustainability in the crypto space as a whole. I mean, Polygon is a great example of that. They have a green manifesto. I see other chains having their initiatives as well. I see metaverses, taking initiatives to become green. So I think there's growing attention. I see, we have a lot of retail or individual customers that use our NFTs and CO2 tokens to compensate. So I think there's momentum for that, especially. I think it also has to do with trustworthiness. Because I see many initiatives. Anyone can mint an NFT. It's like anyone can mint CO2 tokens, and there's like also a lot of fugazi in the space. And I think in the end, people want to know, okay, do I know it's really there, the tree? Is it actually doing what it's supposed to be doing? And that brings what I see people to us. And the nice thing is that because of blockchain, we can easily integrate NFTs in metaverses or in games, and we can build on top of each other, so people can use the CO2 token in their marketplaces, helping them to become sustainable. Because that was simply not possible in traditional finance space. It is hard, and now we can make all kinds of new combinations between projects that can help to leverage sustainability for everyone. So, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Are there any kind of uses you see evolving in the environmental kind of social impact initiatives that you're really excited about? Specifically?
Yeah. So, for example, the usage of the CO2 token that we have, it will find its way into marketplaces. I think web shops, because the token it's a fungible token, and it represents 1 kilogram of CO2 that is being generated somewhere by a tree. And by utilizing the token into other marketplaces or web shops or other products, you basically are leveraging the token and help generate also revenue for the farmers. right? So they can buy more land, plant more trees, and then it's really a sustainable economy because it flows back to the farmers directly. So that is something that we will focus on to integrate that token in more payment processes. But also, I think in the future, it could be great if people can invest directly in farmers. So right now we onboard farmers, so they start to generate their CO2 tokens, but we are not selling their NFTs yet. But people would like to invest in farms. Let's say if we have a farmer in Angola, he's planting mango trees, that you can actually invest in that farm and own that NFT from that farmer that is producing mango. Because in the end of the day, the fruits are sold and they can generate a return on investment. So hopefully in the future we can build a platform where we become a sustainability investment platforms where people can go and invest in multiple farming projects or NFT projects globally and generate a yield based on what they produce. But we are not there yet because we are not ready to become an investment platform. But we basically showed with our NFTs that it's possible. Right? Because we own the land, we plant the trees ourselves, and we can fractionalize a farm and allow people to invest in it. But in order to go to the next step and make that available on a global level, there needs to be other things in place, like legal aspects, etc. But I think with the right technology, for example, with our partner Floodlight, with the satellite technology, we can make that happen. And I think within the next, always be realistic. Within the next 5 years, we should be able to build something like that we become a sustainable investment platform.
And do you see then, I guess, the impact or the social impact for the farmers there as kind of the protection provided by the technology?
Yeah, and it's not only protection, but access to capital, because farmers in developing countries have no access to capital. Farmers in Holland, where they have not easy access, but they have access to capital via bank. They can get a loan. They can use that to invest in their farm. But farmers from developing countries don't have that. And that limits their capacity to, basically buy land, plant trees, and generate wealth, right? And jobs. Because in the end of the day, the jobs are generated by those farmers, especially the ones that we onboard. Once they start planting the trees and the trees go into production, they have to hire people from the local economies to collect the fruits, sell it. Somebody has to package the fruit. Somebody has to operate the truck that drives it to a warehouse. It has to go to a harbor. So that, and by giving access to capital to those farmers, you basically kickstart that whole economy. And then, once they start exporting the fruits, they receive an income from abroad, so they can then reinvest in the farm, and then the economy grows. So I think it's a protection of the environment, but also an impulse to their local economies.
Yep, definitely. Another big point that I want to touch on here is transparency. It's another big part of maybe what we could consider a successful NFT project these days.
Yep.
Why would you say it's so specifically important in not only Web3, but in the NFT space?
Yeah, because the technology is really great, but it's also easy to copy. And therefore anyone can create any Fugazi project. And if you're dealing with money, in my experience, people will create opportunities to do a quick win. So therefore, it's really important that if you launch an NFT project, that you do everything to make it as transparent as possible. Because scamming people nowadays, it's always been human nature to do that. But basically, with NFTs, you can do it on a global scale, and that should. And people should be aware of that. If you buy an NFT, check what's the team behind it, and what mechanisms they have to show that the NFT is really doing what it should be doing. Because you're dealing with money, and people should take every measure to make sure that it's a legitimate project.
Definitely. Yeah, good. Do you think that Web3 and blockchain tech is kind of getting more user-friendly? So you said that you didn't really have much experience with it previously, and it was really just kind of a means to an end. Is that something we can continue to look forward to, do you think?
Yeah, I think the technology is improving to make it easier. I mean, Venly is an example of that. Because we were happy to get in contact with Venly. That helped us greatly. Also because, for example, the NFTs, we can send an NFT via email using Venly service. I think that's really great. So because I know certain people use it as a gift. So you can send an NFT to somebody via email. And then, they have a Venly wallet, and then they are exposed to crypto. And then they can go to our DApp and claim the CO2 tokens. Because I learned that in certain countries, certain culture is tradition to give somebody a tree when a baby is born. I didn't know that. And now you can do that digitally. You can send somebody an NFT via email, say, hey, a baby is born. Send the NFT. It's connected to the real world and starts generating CO2 tokens. Yeah, that CO2 tokens you can use as savings for the baby, whatever. That's I think that's one of the examples that Venly has created to enhance easier onboarding of non-crypto people. I also see more and more use cases where it becomes easier to use a DEX, for example. That's really helpful, especially if you can route fiat payments through it. Also, Venly, I think the Venly marketplace is a good example where you can pay with fiat and with stable coins to buy NFTs. Also with your credit card. So those are examples that the space becomes more and more accessible for non-crypto users.
Cool. Thanks. I wasn't looking for an answer that was all about Venly, but I can't say I don't appreciate it. That's sweet. Yeah. Then talking kind of maybe on the other side of this that we kind of hinted at with the transparency question, but what kind of risks should people weigh before not only investing in them and in the opportunities themselves, but maybe getting into launching an NFT project?
If you doubt, then it's already a good indicator that that you should look deeper. I never invested personally in NFTs that are just connected to a picture, because first of all, I don't understand it. I don't know how to value pictures or JPEGs. I'm not knowledgeable enough for that. But if you're looking to invest in an NFT project, then ask yourself the question: do I invest in it because you think it's going to be the next hype and you want to cash out in the next bull run? Okay, then go ahead, do it. But if you're going to invest in an NFT that has real world utility, check them the mechanisms that they have in place in order to show that it's really there. And a good indicator is we use Chainlink for that. I think all massive projects, they use Chainlink or Chainlink Proof of Reserve. because that's a really good indicator that the project is real. So without that, it's kind of hard to do it, to be honest. So yeah, take a look at the tech. But yeah, that's also kind of hard if you're not super techy. Because yeah, I can say, okay, check if they're working with Chainlink, but then you need smart contract knowledge. But then at least look at the blog if they have sections like Gitbook where they explain how the tech is there, because there should be documentation always available. I think so. I put a lot of effort in it myself to document everything and make it available for people that want to go deep, that they can actually go deep and reach out to the team. So go into their Discord, get in touch with the people that can explain the tech, so you can get a better understanding. Because if you see that they have a hard time explaining it, then you know that or it's not developed yet, because that's also what I see a lot. People promise the world, yeah, we're going to launch this NFT project, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. Yeah, that's easy. Talking is easy, right? But then when you're going to build, you're going to run into issues that needs to be solved. Yeah. Because a project basically is a non-stop bug fixing project, right? It's never ending. And if you don't see that, if there's no bugs and if everything looks perfect, okay, there's something not right here, because all projects have bugs, right? And that's a good indicator, actually, especially if they run into a bug and then manage to solve it within a reasonable timeline, because then it's a real world project. Those are good indicators, in my opinion.
No, that's perfect. Disclaimer, that's not investment advice overall, but we appreciate those tips for sure. Cool. And I guess the last big question I have for you, feel free to let your imagination run wild here, but what do you see as the ideal future of NFTs?
The ideal future of NFTs. The ideal future of NFTs. Yeah, I think the ideal future of NFTs comes down to, okay, if I look at my life and all the stuff I do in my life, so if I buy a house, if I travel, if I get sick and I need to go to the hospital, or if I go to the gym, what would be really helpful if I can do that to verify myself, to buy a house instead of going to the notary. That should all be connected to NFTs. Or your car. If you buy a car, your car insurance connected to your car. I think that is the real future of NFTs, is that it's connected to everything you use. So from your passport to your car to the house you buy, and that's all traceable, verifiable on the blockchain. I think that is the ideal future of NFTs, and that it makes life easier. Because if I, for example, buying land in Spain is kind of difficult, because I have to go with papers to multiple people behind multiple desks. That's very slow. Why isn't that an NFT? It will be an NFT for sure, because if I buy land or a house from somebody, why we have to go to a guy or a lady that writes it down on paper, then or puts it in a vault, or I have to get signatures, and it's super costly as well. The notary, for example, why is that? It's like, it's all legacy. And with NFTs, that should all be gone, in my opinion. Right? It's like we can do a transfer on the blockchain. It's safer, right? It's faster, it's safer, it's cheaper. So I think that is the ideal future of NFTs, in my opinion.
The very last question that we like to ask everybody is, who should we have on the Venly Expert Talks next?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think I'm a big fan of the technology partner that we use, Floodlight. I think what they're doing, it's helping us. We have a good relationship with them. I would like to invite my partner from Floodlight and explain how the real world data, especially satellite data on chain, will help other projects like us, because I think that is the next phase where people start utilizing those kind of data for their own projects. So I would like to invite them.
Yeah. Excellent. Great. Then, thanks again so much for coming and talking to me. I really appreciate it and appreciate your time. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Coorest has going on next.
Yes. We will keep you in the loop. I'm really happy that we're doing this podcast. Nice opportunity to talk about what we are doing with Venly and what Coorest is trying to accomplish. Thank you for inviting me to elaborate on it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming. It's been a lot of really interesting information.
Great, thank you.
If you like today's episode, please rate, follow, or subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you really like our content, join our Discord community, where there's always good conversation, exciting news, and live AMAs. Thanks for listening.